play a game?
Why, yes, I believe we shall.
Oh, I got a live one here.
Welcome to Geek Talk Radio. I'm your host, Shane Stats. Got a cool show today. Actually, on the phone right now, who's going to be joining us for the entire hour is Gregory Wilson, a.k.a. Arvan Eleron, who's a professor, a fantasy author, a podcaster, and a Twitch personality. We'll introduce Greg here in a second. First, let me throw out just some house cleaning notes that we always do at the beginning of the show. First of all, thanks so much for listening, whether you're listening on 96.5 FM, The Answer out of Little Rock, or if you're listening on the website stream at 96.5 FM, theanswer.com, or on iHeartRadio or the TuneIn Radio apps on your smartphone. Appreciate you being here. Remember, you can call into the show anytime during the show, no matter what the topic is. I always want to hear from you at 501-823-0965. That's 501-823-0965. You can also tweet me at Shane Plays, and I keep an eye on those tweets. And it's a great way to, some people aren't comfortable calling in, others are. If you don't want to call in, but you want to have a question or comment for the show, then feel free to at Shane Plays. So, and don't forget the podcast is on iTunes. The podcast of this show goes out immediately following the show tonight or tomorrow. And it's on iTunes and it's on my website at shaneplays.com, and it's on Stitcher and all these other places. So just look for Shane Plays in your normal podcast directory. It should be out there. Last, never forget that right now on shaneplays.com, the website companion to the show, and this show is a companion to the website, there's show notes for what we're going to be talking about today. So pull up shaneplays.com. And as we talk, there's links and notes to kind of help you keep up, because you're like, what the heck was he talking about? And then there it was right there, and there's the link. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring on Mr. Arvan Eleron himself, Greg Wilson. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing well, Shane. How are you?
Man, I am great. You sound loud and clear. If people don't know, Greg's actually traveling today and has paused his travels, his adventures, his quest to be with us. And we're doing something a little different today. Instead of just interviewing Greg, which we're going to interview Greg the second part of the show, he's actually going to co-host. So he is joining us today, and we will banter and things of that nature as the show unfolds. So
yeah, I'm moving up in the world, I guess.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons that I wanted to do this with you is, I've been in your Twitch room many times. If people don't know, Twitch is a website, twitch.tv, I think. And people like live stream the games they're playing and comment at the same time. And, you've built a very intimate group, a very intimate feel. People come in, they hang out with you, and you know what you're doing. And I've spent so much time in your virtual geek living room. I wanted to invite you into mine. So welcome.
I appreciate, thank you. I appreciate the invitation. And and who are these people who don't want to call in? I mean, who come on now.
Some people, I've done radio long enough now. I'm by no means a complete veteran, but I've done various shows to know that some people, they'll text and tweet all day long, but they will not call in. And some people call in.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, anyway,
Gotcha.
Let's throw that again. 501-823-0965. You can call whether you're in Little Rock or out of town, or it's tweet us at Shane Place. So, as I like to say, and I'm going to call you Arv from here on out, because that's what we call you in your Twitch room. Arv.
That's fine.
Arvan Eleron. Time is a predator that stalks us all our lives. So we gotta move forward into some news. So
cool.
First I want to shout out real quick to my friend Carlos. He actually had a birthday about a week ago, and I told him I'd shout out last weekend on the show, and I forgot to. So Carlos the Magic Man, and I call him that because he plays Magic the Gathering like a mad fiend.
Okay.
Yeah, if people are here in the Little Rock area, they can catch him at Imagine Games up in Sherwood. But don't take him lightly, man. He can sling some cards. But it was his birthday, so happy birthday to Carlos the Magic Man. But from a positive note, we have a sad note, Greg. We have a sad note to get into here in gaming news. As most people probably know, Nintendo president Satoru Iwata passed away on July 11th. And that's in the gaming realm, and especially in Nintendo, that's a big deal. I mean, this is like basically like Steve Jobs going. People are very sad about this. There were 4,000 people attended that funeral service. It was a 2-day funeral service. There was a nearby typhoon, but people still came out in droves to pay their respects. So he was not only a programmer for several well-known games, but he was, as far as I know, instrumental with like the DS and the Wii, which in my opinion are amazing innovations in gaming, both of them. So yeah.
It's true. It's true. And he was a fairly young guy in his mid-50s, I believe. This is a guy who, and I think it reminded me a little bit actually of when Robin Williams passed away. I was surprised at the impact that had on younger people. I obviously grew up and knew a lot about Robin Williams, but I was surprised how much people in the sort of younger demographic were really shaken up by it. And I think it had to do with, in Robin Williams' case, also a lot because of his connection to gaming and stuff like that. And it's the same thing with Iwata. I was a little surprised that people were that broken up by it, but this guy really, a lot of people felt that he was one of them. He was a gamer, so that was bad.
Well, I believe in the gaming world, they refer to him as Iwata-san. So they kind of feel that he's, one of them, like you said. And I loved, I think you've seen this, but he gave a statement at GDC 2005, and I think this really sums it up. He said, "On my business card, I am a corporate president. In my mind, I'm a game developer, but in my heart, I am a gamer." And I can't think of a better. I always mess. Is it epitaph? What do you put on the memorial?
Epitaph.
Okay.
Epitaph.
Yeah.
Hopefully not any epithets. No, it'll be an epitaph for sure.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the epitaph is like a completely different meaning. So, I can't think of a better one. Right. So, and there's people out there that never. This is. Celebrities, we forget that there's like really close friends and family members that are mourning right now that knew him on a completely different level. So, we sorry to hear about that. And yes, he was 55 and he passed away from I guess kind of a rare form of cancer. So that,
they called it a bile duct growth, I think is what they referred to it as, or something like that. But yeah, and also, the other thing, I don't know if you feel the same way, but of all of the sort of game companies that are out there, leave aside the console wars for a moment, Nintendo really defined gaming, I think, for a lot of us. They really were the ones who first, I guess if you're a certain age, maybe Atari, but I think really for most of us, the sort of bridge has been Nintendo, much more than Sony, much more than Microsoft, much more than Sega even. Nintendo was sort of there. So for a guy who's an icon of that company to pass also, has an effect, I think.
Well, Nintendo was the company that made the games about characters, not just games, right? So, I mean, we could, I wish I could spend more time on this, but we have to move on. But definitely sad to hear that. And, I hope that Nintendo continues to innovate like they've been trying, under him. So I have a lot of respect for the things that Nintendo has done, over the past decade or so, not to mention their whole history. So here's another news item that I'm very excited about. I know we're either the same generation or we're very close. So I'm going to imagine you're excited about this. Berkeley Breathed is doing Bloom County again. That is so cool. Now, there's probably some people listening to this show, because this show reaches multiple generations, who have no clue what Bloom County is or Berkeley Breathed is. But it's just, there was a trinity, a trifecta, if you will, of amazing comic strips that defined the 80s. And they're just part of the Zeitgeist, or I always mess that word up, of the 80s. And one was The Far Side. The other one was Calvin and Hobbes. And the third one was Bloom County. Opus the Penguin, Bill the Cat. And, he left Bloom County like years ago, and then he did Outland, and then he did Opus just on Sundays. But now he's doing Bloom County again. And have you had a chance to read any of them?
Not since the recent one started. I was actually trying to think about what people. I have a feeling people would be familiar with Bill the Cat, even if they weren't familiar with Bloom County, the strip.
Right.
Because that character sort of, kept going. But no, I haven't had a chance to check any of the recent ones. And you're right. Those were the three I was thinking of, and maybe Doonesbury. But Doonesbury was sort of like so long running that it almost doesn't count. So basically, it was Calvin and Hobbes, and it was Far Side, which I loved, and in Bloom County. So yeah, did you even know why he got back? Did he explain why he was doing it again now? Why this particular moment?
In his, according to him, the the political climate is drawing him back in. Now, he's kind of saying that, well, I left Bloom County years ago because things had gotten so nasty. And I'm like, well, it seems nastier to me now. But, you know, right. I guess perception is reality. A lot of it, and he's kind of almost said this without saying that, a lot of it is because of Donald Trump. Because he used to love to go after Trump in the 80s. So, and Trump, about the same time that Trump really started going berserk in the polls, suddenly here comes Bloom County 2015. So the interesting thing on this is that he's just doing it on Facebook. If you want to keep up with it, just go follow Berkeley Breathe It on Facebook and you get his strips. And he's basically said, I'm going to publish it when I feel like it. But he's already done 3 or 4. So hopefully he'll keep that up. And they're good, man. It feels like the old Bloom County.
Does it really? So the art's still that he hasn't lost a step then?
No, the Milo. It's back to Milo and Binkley. I mean, it's Bloom County, and the conceit is Opus Rip Van Winkled for 25 years and has suddenly woke up now, and Milo and Binkley are walking him through today's culture, and it's really good. So
nice. I gotta go check that out.
Yeah, but speaking of walking through, moving on, you know the new Ant-Man movie is out.
Yes.
Yeah, and Kendall in the operator booth just threw up his hands. The reviews are actually, I kind of felt like this might be the one that tanked, just because of the property is so unknown, and you know it could go silly, but it's actually got 78% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, and Metacritic has it at 65%. I've talked to a couple of people and they like it. So have you seen it, Kendall?
I have not.
You're in there nodding your head. Have you seen it, Arv?
I have not yet seen it. I feel like at this point, essentially, because I mean, I have a friend of mine who was just sort of stunned that this was even coming out. He's like,
right.
This plus Paul Rudd, and I was kind of like, well, you know, I mean, the thing is that anything Marvel does at this point is probably going to make a mint and is probably going to succeed, because if it's even, you know, their property has gotten to be, they've managed it very well over the last 5 to 10 years. And so anything they do now, people are just going to eat it up. And they do so well with continuity as well that you go to Ant-Man figuring you're going to see all these references to like other Avenger type
right.
stuff and other Marvel related stuff. So I think at this point, anything they could throw out there would be likely to succeed, I think.
Well, I think that you're right. But I'm waiting for that jump the shark moment where it, like, the movie makes money, but it's really not that great of a movie, and it undermines
right.
their overall credibility. And that hasn't happened yet. You know, there's a possibility Ant-Man would have been that, but it's actually pretty good. I'm hoping to sneak out and see it pretty soon with my lovely wife. So, okay, here's a cool one. I think this is really neat. The New Horizons probe just whipped past Pluto, and I whipped past. I don't know if that's the correct imagery, but it just whipped right on by. And it's actually powered. I think this is so cool. By the same CPU that powered the original PlayStation.
Yep.
Kendall's raising his eyebrows in there. So that's neat. I love that kind of stuff. So and evidently now this art, you know, if people go to shaneplays.com, I got all my links and everything there. If the reason they chose it is because when it comes to these things, they got to be out there for decades. Right. Mm-hmm. And they want reliability. And that CPU had been proven in all of these PlayStation 1s. So, yeah, I think that's just really neat.
There's another reason, too, by the way. I talked to one of my regular viewers, actually, and I'm trying to remember who it was. I can't remember. It was on Twitch, and I actually chatted with him. I know who it was. It was the Twitch name is Monkey Commando, so I'm giving him a shout-out right now.
Monkey Commando.
Monkey Commando, but he is actually going to be going into aerospace engineering graduate work. That's what he's applying to now. So apparently the other reason they use these older CPUs is because of something called radiation hardening, which I'd never heard of. But apparently the CPUs, when you send them out there, can jump. So because of various gravitational forces and things like that, essentially they switch, right? So from 0 to 1 or 1 to 0, like if you know binary,
oh, right. Okay.
on to off or off to on. And if you're, you know, however many thousands of miles away from Earth, kind of hard to get a tech up there to fix it. So these simpler CPUs apparently are more resistant to that, and that's why they had to use these models. And they're still looking to like upgrade new systems that they can send out that aren't going to have that problem. So not only is the PlayStation an older, reliable chip, it's also not likely to jump around. So
and
you keep that in mind when you play Crash Bandicoot on your retro console.
Yeah. So the PlayStation chip will survive the nuclear apocalypse, and you can still play.
That's
yeah.
right.
Well, there you go.
Cockroaches in the PlayStation chip.
They're the cockroaches of the CPU industry. So.
Yep.
Yeah, and that ties into the New Horizons probe has a radioactive power source, evidently. So, what we're going to have to do here is we got to pay the bills. I'm one of those dirty capitalists, by goodness. And we're going to pay the bills, and with a break, when we come back, we'll keep going with news with Gregory Wilson, a.k.a. Arvan Eleron. And we are back to Shane Plays Radio, Geek Talk Radio. I'm your host, Shane Stacks. We've got Greg Wilson, a.k.a. Arvan Eleron, on with us. Thanks for hanging through the break and the ads, folks. Listen, our sponsors help keep the show on the air. So if you hear anything there that's interesting at all and you contact any of them, please make sure to tell them Shane Plays sent you and show them that they're getting value out of this. You probably heard that thing about Patreon. And, I'm trying to do something here. I think this is interesting and maybe unique in radio, at least I'm aware of. I'm trying to have half sponsors and half Patreon support to show that the community wants the show too. So we'll see if that happens. But the show will keep going. I don't want to guilt anybody into supporting by Patreon. But if you like the show and you want to, you're more than welcome to.
I think you should be guilting them anyway. You should be like, listen, if you want Shane to feed his family and you don't want to feel crappy about yourself as a human being, you've got to step up to the plate and support the business. So don't give them an out. This is the deal.
All right, listen to you cheap nicks. Patreon.com/Shane Plays. So, all right.
/ feed my family.
Yeah, / feed my family, my 20-month-old son, Justice. So, all right. And I have another ad to throw out. We have a new sponsor. I'm going to do an audible on this one, which is completely not like doing an audible in football. So this is JLM Tree Servicing. JLM Tree Servicing can take care of your tree servicing needs. They can be reached at 501-351-7714. Online at jlmservicing.com and on Facebook. Do you have limbs touching the roof or killing your grass with too much shade? Leaves collecting in the pool or gutters? Need to remove that unsightly dead tree? JLM Servicing is insured, provides free estimates, serves all of Central Arkansas, and doesn't collect payment until job well done. JLM Tree Servicing. Contact them at 501-351-7714. Find them online at jlmservicing.com or on Facebook. Tell them Shane Plays sent you. And I got to tell you, Arv, they've done work for me. They've taken some trees out. But also the gutters on the back of my house recently ripped off from the weight of stuff in the gutters. And as part of that was leaves. Yeah. So that's no joke. If you got stuff goobering up your gutters there. So, but anyway, moving on. Do a little bit more news. I'm going to do one or two more news topics, and then I want to get into San Diego Comic-Con. It's hard to choose. I never get to all my news items that I want, but I did want to mention, I think this one's great. Miyazaki, right? The animator? Are you familiar with him? Okay, so Spirited Away, Nausicaa in the Valley of the Winds, Howl's Moving Castle, Princess Mononoke. He's going to direct a CG film. And that
is this Final Fantasy Redux?
No,
okay.
No, it's evidently he maintains the museum of the studio. I think it's Ghibli, or I'm going to get that wrong. And there's a fanboy out there who's frothing with rage now. And I do apologize, but it's not enough to keep him occupied. He's bored, so he's going to do a short with a computer generated animated film, and he's like, look, people, don't worry. It's the story and the characters, not the tools, right? So I'm interested to see this. And then, okay, so about the horrible disaster that was the PC version of Batman Arkham Knight, right?
I am conscious of the fact that I haven't played it yet for that very reason.
That very reason. Okay, it's not the story, it's not the game. In this case, it is the tools, which were a disaster in the PC port. Word on the street is it won't be out till September at the earliest, the fix. and they're not
Yep.
even selling it anymore right now. So I haven't played it yet either. And then last, I know that you'll be excited about this one, Arv. Beamdog, which is a company, announced Baldur's Gate: Siege of Dragonspear, which is going to be a, what do you call it, a midquel? It's going to be a story in between, I think, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2.
Which will be a neat trick as to how they handle it. And, of course, working with it is someone that you happen to know, right? I'm going to give you a teaser here.
Yeah, we're not chums, but yeah, Chris Avallone is actually going to be on the show next week. And now he did not, his involvement, and if people don't know Chris Avallone, you should if you're a gamer, but so listen in next week. But evidently what he did, I guess, is when the game was pretty close to being done, he came in and reviewed it and played it and gave them notes. So, but still, Chris Avallone is huge in gaming, and so that's huge to have him attached with it. So yes, he will be on next week. He will be our interview next week. So that's exciting, and I'm excited about the Baldur's Gate, Siege of Dragonspear. One, because Baldur's Gate is such a great game line, D&D game line, of course, the Infinity Engine, and I'm working my way through. I'm on Act 3 of Pillars of Eternity, and I love that style of game. Right.
Yep.
And I believe was Chris Avallone was he was involved with Pillars of Eternity, wasn't he? And,
sure.
Yeah, with
sure.
Exile and Brian Fargo. Yeah. So that's going to be cool. All right, we'll try to do some San Diego Comic-Con news, and then after that we'll hit another break, and then it's all you, baby. It is Arvan Eleron. Okay, we're going to talk about what you're up to and what you do. But cool. Here's the ironic thing. It's just the irony is just dripping all over me with this, Arv. Every piece of San Diego Comic-Con news I have is movie related.
Where's the comic in the con, right?
Yeah, well, a lot of the stuff is influenced by comics or uses comics as the source material. I actually guest hosted the Dave Ellswick Show, which is a show here in Little Rock yesterday, and there was a guy on. I just did the last hour, and there was a guy named Josh that came on that went to the Comic-Con and came back with all kinds of cool toys and stuff. But yeah, it's much more than just a comic book convention. It's comic book, toys, industry panels, and then of course all the movies and stuff want to premiere news, And I think it says a lot that so many big movies right now are directly influenced by comic books. Right. So
it's true. Well, and they were sort of the early sort of version of those stories. The Comic-Cons I've done a couple of Comic-Cons. I do a bunch of conventions every year, and I've done a couple of Comic-Cons, not the biggest one, but I've done Philadelphia Comic-Con, which I think is the third or fourth largest. And I'll be doing Dragon Con this year, which, although it's not a Comic-Con, is definitely moving in that direction. But they've kind of created their own center of gravity, honestly. Like everyone now is kind of focused on the big gaming conventions like Gen Con, my personal favorite, which has a big writing track, or something like Dragon Con. But a lot of them sort of take their cues, I find, from the Comic-Cons like San Diego. So yeah, it's gotten to be pretty crazy, the numbers of people that are involved and how much they do.
Well, they're becoming a pop culture event, right? It's like this sort of melding of all these different things. And that's one of the reasons that I'm doing this show, is being a geek is cool right now. I mean, it's a whole lot different than when I was growing up.
We better take advantage of it now.
Yeah.
That's what figure out. They're like, wait a minute. Yeah. Who made this cool? Who signed off on this?
Exactly. Yeah. So, all right. So here's some news. First off, of course they had it wasn't a trailer, but it was like 3.5 minutes of The Force Awakens behind the scenes footage almost. And my favorite part about it is this clip from, I am blanking on the name, Mark Hamill. I love this statement from Mark Hamill. Kendall, you got that queued up for us? All right, let's listen to this real quick.
Real sets, practical effects.
You've been here, but you don't know this story.
Nothing's changed, really. I mean, everything's changed, but nothing's changed. That's the way you want it to be, really.
I love that quote. I mean, there's two things that you can mine out of that quote. One is, practical effects, which is one of the things that I thought made Mad Max Fury Road so good. It was all practical stuff. Yep. Two, he nailed on the head what you want in a sequel. You want it to be exactly the same, but totally different. So, and that's easy. That's easy, right?
That's right. Well, no, they've been playing off of nostalgia ever since the first major trailer that I remember, where they have Han and Chewbacca, right, are just sitting there going,
Right.
look, we're home.
We're home. Yeah, we're
So,
home.
and that's really the concern. I think that personally, I mean, I'm not down on J.J. Abrams the way a lot of people are. I think that he did a pretty good job, actually, with the Star Trek franchise, and I don't see how he could do any worse with what the Star Wars movies became over the last couple. So, to me, as long as they don't make it into nothing but a trip down memory lane, as long as they let it stand on its own with some historical foundation, if they can do that, and I think they're in good shape. But that's the only concern, is, are they going to make this, remember 1978, which was a good year? That's the only thing I'd be a little concerned about.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I think that so far I'm like, how some sports fans, like a true fan, hangs with their sports team through the up and downs. Like I'm a Star Wars fan. I don't defend, but I enjoy the prequels because I'm a Star Wars fan.
Right.
And so I'm just looking forward to it in general. But yeah, I can see people
you didn't bail on pod racing. You were there through the pod racing events.
No, let me tell you, pod racing was mega bomb bad. So no, I didn't bail through pod. In fact, I thought the pod racing sequence was actually pretty cool. So, I think that the prequels, because they did everything absolutely CG, and some of the chemistry between the characters there was some soul that wasn't there. But I would argue that Revenge of the Sith was a really good movie. In fact, I like it better than Return of the Jedi personally. Please don't kill me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no.
Wow.
Please, yeah. So I let's move on, because I just tread on sick. Ooh. Okay. So here's the next one, and this trailer actually blew me away. Arv, and that was the Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice trailer they released. Have you had a chance to see it yet?
You know what? I just saw that they had posted it, so I haven't seen it yet. I saw the first one and was a little underwhelmed, but I'm glad. I've heard a lot of people talking about this, though. Seen a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah, here's what it did for me and a lot of other people. It went from, I'm going to see this movie because I'm a geek, to, ooh, I really want to see this movie. So it looks good. And in fact, a lot of the buzz I'm seeing is that Star Wars, or that Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice, may have outhyped Star Wars out of San Diego Comic-Con, which is no mean feat.
Right.
Yeah, but I had a friend, Bill Burkeen, called yesterday when I was on the Dave Ellswick show, and he said, here's why I think that is. He's like, we're already pretty comfortable with Star Wars. We know it's going to be good, right? We feel like it's in decent hands for the most part. We don't know how to feel about Batman versus Superman, right? And now it's like this trailer is like reassuring people. So
it's true. The expectations were super low, and I actually have to say I feel a little bit bad for Ben Affleck, who I feel has been unfairly tagged.
I still
the same maintain way. Daredevil was not his fault. Okay, terrible script, but he was not bad in that role.
I agree.
So I'm glad to see maybe he'll actually get a role that he doesn't get unfairly tagged with. It was your fault.
Right.
I mean?
Well, if Mr. Mom can, if you're a child of the '80s, you'll get this reference. If Mr. Mom can be Batman, then Ben Affleck, and I think he looks great. I mean, I haven't seen, I haven't heard him, but I think he looks great. So
he's got the look.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So we got a Deadpool trailer, which I haven't seen yet. I'm hearing it's a Red Band trailer, so this is not family friendly, but it's supposed to be pretty funny, and it pretty much is Deadpool.
I think you could just put. I was going to say that family friendly and Deadpool.
Yeah, don't go hand in hand. I haven't seen this because evidently it's leaked footage, and the little bit of it I saw was that kind of grainy, somebody was filming it in a room. The X-Men Apocalypse trailer's out. People are liking it because of Storm and Psylocke, but I'm hearing that they think Apocalypse looks kind of cheesy, so I don't know. I'm just reporting it. I don't have an opinion myself. Now this is cool. Batman: The Killing Joke is coming as the next DCU animated movie.
Interesting.
That of course is the one where the Joker shot Barbara Gordon and she became paralyzed, and there was some pretty rough stuff in there. And then also they're going to do a Batman Bad Blood, which is going to introduce Batwoman to the line of animated films, and Justice League versus Titans, which will be the first DCU original movie to have the Teen Titans. So,
and Killing Joke, by the way, was Mark Hamill, since you mentioned it before. Mark Hamill, of course, the voice of the Joker for many, many years in a lot of these games and the animated series.
Right.
That was his favorite. The Killing Joke is
he's lobbying. He's lobbying. He's like lobbying the fans to try to get to be the voice in The Killing Joke. So
Which,
I don't.
I mean, that would be amazing.
I mean, it's kind of like, people want Kevin Conroy as Batman, and they want Mark Hamill. It's just it's for 20 years, if not more, that's been the voice.
Right.
And Mark Hamill does an amazing job as a lot of people think of him as Luke Skywalker. He's a fantastic voice actor.
Oh, he's spectacular.
Yeah.
I think Troy Baker in Arkham Origins played the Joker and did a great job, but part of why he was great is that he sounded a lot like Mark Hamill doing the Joker.
Exactly.
Mark Hamill's Joker was tremendous. Yeah.
All right. So I got to hit these others real quick. Then we're going to do a break, and we're going to come back to all Arv all the time. Okay, so the Supergirl TV series pilot hit Comic-Con, and people loved it. One of the quotes was, "I'm absolutely speechless." And then there are trailers out now for Fear the Walking Dead, which is the new Walking Dead show, and the trailers out for The Walking Dead Season 6. Now, the interesting thing about Fear the Walking Dead, it's a different TV show in the same Walking Dead universe, features different people, and it begins when the outbreak happens. Like Walking Dead happens once it's already, it's several weeks into it. So you don't sound happy about
too
these.
much Walking Dead. Too much Walking Dead.
Too much Walking Dead. What if they shambled?
Oh God, please.
Would it be okay if they just shambled?
Yeah, well, that's fine. I just prefer that we reach the dead portion of this show. I'm not a big.
You're not a big. Okay, all right.
I'm not a big zombie apocalypse guy. Is the problem, and I just feel like, good God, enough with it, and then more misery, and more
misery. Can we get some good old D&D zombies that are just necromantic, and if you get bit, you don't turn into one?
And they stay destroyed.
Yeah, they stay
and you go have a
dead.
drink at the tavern.
Yeah,
right?
I tell you, George A. Romero, what Pandora's box has he opened on us? All right,
That's it.
So we're going to take a break. When we come back, all Arv, all the time. Is an Overstreet price guide advisor and publishes his own comic book series, The Wild Stars. Trust me, these stores are run by a comic book lover for comic book lovers. Remember, for all of your comic book needs with friendly service and to get your copies of The Wild Stars, make sure to visit the comic book store on Treasure Hill Road in Little Rock or Collector's Edition on JFK Boulevard in North Little Rock, and visit thewildstars.com to learn more.
Call Chapman Service today for all your air conditioning and electrical concerns. 0% financing till January 2020 for a limited time. Voted best of the best for 5 years in a row. It's hard to stop a train. Chapman Service, all you want in an air conditioning and an electrical company. Nothing you don't.
In business for over 15 years, the Hillcrest Doghouse provides full grooming, bathing, boarding, and daycare services for just about all breeds with knowledgeable and friendly staff, including a licensed groomer with over 10 years experience. The Hillcrest Doghouse uses all natural shampoos, including a pesticide-free flea shampoo. All kennels are situated where we work, which means your companion is rarely left alone, providing the benefit of full interaction with our friendly staff. Additionally, we walk your dog at least 3 times a day to ensure a happy day. Grooming and boarding packages are also available at great prices. The Hillcrest Doghouse is located at 3924 West Markham Street in Little Rock. Call the Hillcrest Doghouse at 501-296-9800. That's 501-296-9800. We're also on Facebook. Find us and like us. All right. We are back. Shane Plays Radio. I'm your host, Shane Stacks, on Geek Talk Radio. We're going to shift. The remainder of the show is going to be all Arv, all the time. Arvan Eleron, a.k.a. Greg Wilson. This guy, I don't want to say I discovered him. I want to say on Twitch, because that sounds wrong. I found him on Twitch and was able to go into his geek living room and have enjoyed it every time I've gone in. You do a great, now again, if people don't know what Twitch is, it's a website and an app on your smartphone or whatever. People will broadcast the games they're playing and they will comment, and it's huge. Huge. So think of it as like a cable, like hundreds of cable channels or satellite TV channels where you could just get to hang out with people that are playing games that you like to watch, and then they're chatting with you. And there's chat rooms that you can chat back, and it's just cool. So, and
Yep.
I've been in several where like I was in there 30 seconds and just jump right back out because it wasn't personal. It was foul, and the people in there and the comment I didn't like. What keeps me in a Twitch channel, and there's only 2 or 3 that I usually hang out with. Well, there's you, and then I'll hang out with Tabletopping, right? I'll hang. In fact, David from Tabletopping at some point is probably going to come on the show. He's like taking it to this like Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, he's like all DM all the time, Dungeons and Dragons channel.
Yep.
But you, I have to compliment you, Arv, and you're Arvan Eleron. That's your nickname, and that's because one of your characters from your books, which I'll let you tell us about here in a second. I guess what I'm saying, people, go to twitch.tv and look for Arvan Eleron. That's ARVANELERON, Arvan Eleron, and go follow that channel right now. Just go do it. He's not broadcasting right now, but go follow it, and then you'll get an email that says, "Hey, Arv's broadcasting," and you can go jump in. So the people that hang out there, including myself, we call ourselves the Arvanauts, and we have a good time. And what Arv does is he plays games, he reads books, he reads poetry, he does choose your own adventure books and lets the chat room choose what the next thing to happen is, and he interviews game developers. They come on the show or on his Twitch stream with him, including he had the guys from Shadowrun Dragonfall on, like the night that the director's cut launched. So, big stuff. I'm going to shut up now, and I want you to tell us about yourself, Arv.
Well, I feel like you said everything. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I actually found Twitch in 2011 because I was looking for, as you said, I was a professor, so I was actually grading final exams, and I was trying to look for something for background because, as much as I love all of my students, final exams are not the most exciting thing to deal with. And I found this guy whose name was Catabasis. I'll give him a plug. He's actually back streaming on Twitch now again too, who was at the time an unemployed high school English teacher. He is now employed again, teaching. And he was streaming Skyrim. And I had never heard about any of this. I'd never heard of Twitch. I'd vaguely heard of Justin TV, which was the first sort of version of that. And I just went on and I started, grading exams and watching this guy. And what got me about it was not only that he could be really entertaining, but the fact that he had this whole community of people from all over the world, literally, with all different personalities and different concepts and ideas that they brought to the table. But all of them had this general sort of, care for each other for the most part. It really was kind of a community.
Well,
and
I hate to interrupt. That is a defining characteristic of your channel as well. I mean, it's warm. Is that it's warm when you go in there. And sorry, I just wanted
I appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
I'm glad because that's always the setup that I wanted to do. Everything I do, whether it's podcasting or writing or teaching or playing music, all of it really is about communication. And I've always been a huge believer in the importance of communicating and bringing people together through that. And so good, I'm glad, because I definitely want to have the community feel. And it was surprising to me because I was like, why would gamers watch people play games? Like I would think gamers would game, but the truth is that they play games too. They watch people playing games. They like watching, in my case, they like watching me play stuff that they've played so they can see the decisions that I've made. Like if I'm The Wolf Among Us is an example of one of those games, which is various Telltale games based on Bill Willingham's Fables, which you're also probably familiar with. And, I remember having people who were like on the edge of their seats, apparently virtually, who were kind of like, are you going to, yes, you made the right decision, or no, Arv, no, you're not supposed to do that. And I'm like, well, it's my playthrough,
Right.
But I mean, it's fun because they're getting engaged in it that way. So it's been great for me. It's been great for the writing career. It's been great to have a bunch of friends and people that I connected with, including you and others online. And it's really an amazing experience. Over 3,000 followers we recently passed. So
That's
from all
great.
over the place. So I'm very proud of the community that we've built there.
Yeah, and it's a fun community. I'll tell you what I always try to do. I always try to see if I can make you laugh when I put stuff in there, and about 75% of the time I do, and that makes me feel good. So, because you're really good at keeping your eye on the chat stream, and kind of trying to. That's another thing you do. You want to make sure that you go out of your way to make sure everybody is acknowledged, right? Like you try to respond to people's chats and you try to mention people by name. Like earlier, you wanted to make sure that Monkey, I can't remember the exact handle, got
Monkey Commando.
got a shout out, and stuff like that. So that's very cool.
Well, that's what it's about, right? I mean, if that's sort of the whole purpose is to kind of connect with people and identify with them. And I know for a fact there have been people who, many of them are just sort of, everyday, average type of people hanging out and checking things out. But there have been people who have also been really hurting and who have come to the channel, and not just mine, but others, and have been able to connect with other people. And it has made an absolute difference in their lives. I've talked to them about it because they felt like someone was actually paying attention to them for a change. And what else can I say? Like, that's an awesome thing for a channel that I started initially for fun and then became something more than that.
Well, that's one thing when you mention that. I have seen on many occasions people come in, they go, "Hey, Arv," and you go, "Hey," and they immediately tell you something very distressing that's going on in their life. They're
right.
like, "Man," and you're like, "Whoa, dude," and so yeah, I mean, people that are hurting, wanting community or whatever, are hanging out in your channel, and that's very cool. And this is where, gaming for me there are some times where I like to play solo games and leave me alone and just let me play a game. But a huge part of gaming is hanging out with people and, connecting with the game is kind of the glue that holds you together. What games are you playing like right now, and what do you plan to play soon?
So we recently wrapped up, not too long ago, Pillars of Eternity, since you were mentioning that before. A big focus of the channel is, because I'm a writer, a big focus of the channel is story and narrative. So a lot of the stuff that I do tends to be there. So we wrapped that up. We played about half of The Witcher 3, which was about 75 hours. A phenomenal game, but I just can't play 150 hours at one go.
Yeah,
so
wow.
I got through, and they were like, "All right, so you got about halfway to go." And I was like, "I'm going to take a break for a while." I love the game. For me, it's my game of the year, but I needed a little break. So we're going to come back to it. So we played a quick game called Choice of Robots, which I recommend if you have an Android or a smartphone.
Right.
Really, really cool, like choose your own adventure type thing. And so what we're working on right now is Hand of Fate, an independent game from a company in Australia. Again, very story-based. And this is thanks to the will of chat, because I have a Patreon myself, and one of the milestone goals was they got to choose a game. Chat gets to vote on a game for me. So the game they voted on me to try last month was Chrono Trigger. So I tried it, and I liked it. And so after Hand of Fate is done in the next day or so, I'm going to be playing some retro, some Chrono Trigger. I played Chrono Cross, but never played Chrono Trigger. So I am looking forward to it.
That's something. You let people vote on stuff a lot in your channel. Like I said, you really involve people. But for time, I'm going to take it off of Twitch and on into your writing. But I did want to say that I want to recommend a game to you that I really think that you will like. I'm actually starting to play it, and I'm going to do a Let's Play series on YouTube with it. And I've actually got the developers coming on here in a couple of weeks from Wellnot. But are you aware of Serpent in the Staglands?
Yeah, I heard something vaguely about that. They kickstarted that a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, do you remember a game called Darklands back in the 90s?
Sure.
Okay. It's got the visual aesthetic, and it has the sort of the gameplay and the user interface of a game from the 90s on purpose. And but it's set in this sort of like supernatural Transylvania. Is that a oxymoron to say supernatural Transylvania?
No, that works. That works.
So,
in fact, if you have realistic Transylvania, that's a fail. It's
exactly.
Right?
So, and you play a moon god who's been trapped on the mortal plane and has to go around in the guise of a mortal, and it's really atmospheric. But it's becoming infamous for how hard it is at the beginning, because this is no namby-pamby. This is, there's no helping hand. You either do or die. And, it's in the interface, like they don't track the journal for you. You have to do your own journal and all that. So I recommend.
They don't run the program for you. You have to run your own program.
Yeah. You have to program. Yeah, you have to program it. In fact, the game is just a manual on
You have to make the game yourself. Yeah, that's really old school.
It's C++ programming. Yeah. So, but no, I would check it out if I really feel like that you would like it based on what I know of you.
I will give it a check. Sure.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
But it's becoming infamous. For the first few hours is just incredibly difficult. But then after that, evidently, it turns into a great game. Now, I want to take it over into your writing. We have 6-7 minutes left. When we hear the music, don't worry about. You don't have to shut up. Just Kindle will turn the music down and let you keep going.
Okay.
So you have a book out, and now you have scholarly books, and then you have fiction books. Okay.
Right.
We're going to talk about your fiction books now. You have The Third Sign, right?
Right.
Which is I've read, and you signed for me, and I liked a lot. I love the Arlex. So I want to let you talk about that. I want to let you tell people about what you're doing with this exciting new publishing venture. And then I think you have a graphic novel coming out. So I will do my best to zip my lip and let you talk.
So the first book you mentioned, and thank you also for buying the book. The Third Sign was the first in an epic series called The Chronicle of Clune, and the second and third book of that series hopefully will come out. It will not be in the immediate future, but hopefully not the distant future either. But that came out a few years ago, and that was kind of my first foray into, I shouldn't say into fiction writing, but like commercial fiction writing, where I was actually selling it to a regular publisher, and it was showing up in libraries and stores and things like that. And then, so that was sort of the beginning of it. The graphic novel you mentioned is called Icarus, and I actually ran a Kickstarter. I didn't. The Silence in the Library Publishing did a Kickstarter for it last year, and which was very successful. We funded it about twice our goal, and so that is now coming due. It's actually taken a little bit longer than we had hoped, but it is now going to be coming out hopefully in the next couple of months, and that's super exciting. I've never done a graphic novel before, but I'm really looking forward to it, and it's going to be that is going to be part of several volumes. It's about a young boy who falls into the heart of a dormant volcano. He has wings,
as young boys are wont to do.
Yeah, well, that happens all the time. You just walk along and dormant volcano. I've done it to 3 of them.
Is his name Joe? Is he bursting the volcano? No, I'm messing with you.
Not so much. So he and the creatures that he meets there, so that's Icarus, which is coming out, and then the publishing venture you mentioned is next year. I just signed a 3-book deal with the Ed Greenwood Group, and this is the new publisher from Ed Greenwood. Ed Greenwood is if you think of Dungeons and Dragons, you basically think of Gary Gygax, Dave Arneson, who were the 2 co-founders, and Ed Greenwood, who developed the Forgotten Realms, and basically since the 80s, he's been synonymous in my mind, as is the Forgotten Realms with D&D, and of course you know all about that, having hung out with Chris Perkins last week. So,
yeah, in fact, I want to say that again in case people missed it. Ed Greenwood, right? Yep. I mean you personally are It's not just like some remote. You got a vague impersonal letter. I mean, you are.
Nope.
You're in a friendly publishing relationship with Ed Greenwood himself.
Yes. Yeah, Ed is a really nice guy. I've been friends with Ed for quite a while. We do panels and readings together and I had a short story that came out in an anthology that he edited a couple years ago. And so when he was doing this new venture, he approached me and a number of other people are well known, Shuli Cherneda, people from Paizo Publishing, Chris Jackson, who publishes with Paizo, the Pathfinder folks, and a bunch of those people. And so I've got a book coming out called Gray Shade, which is the first of a trilogy, coming out September of next year. And it's going to be the second book in his fantasy line. So he's got a couple of worlds. One is an urban fantasy world that's starting this year. And then next year he's got a world, and my book is the second book in the series after his, which I'm pretty geeked out about. Like, he's going to release his book, and then my book is the next one in that series called Gray Shade. And I will release one of that trilogy in September 16, 17, and 18. So I'm super pumped about that.
That is really good. Well, congratulations. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm super excited.
Yeah,
about it.
that is good for you. Good on you, Arv. What else can I say? That's great. So you've got the Chronicles of Clune, right? Which is the Third Sign, which I've read. You've got Icarus as a graphic novel coming out. When does that come out again?
So that should be out in the next couple of months. The best guess right now is late September is the target date, which I think will be pretty close to. This, as I say, there's been sort of longer delays for various reasons relating to art and different things, but we've cleared, I think, most of those hurdles. So late September, we believe, is when that's going to be released, and that's not only the first half of the first portion of Icarus, but it's also got a couple of short stories set in the universe with best-selling authors and artists connected to that too. So that I will have links all over the place on various sites connected to me, but a couple of months for that.
All right, we are exactly 60 seconds. Time is a predator that stalks us all our lives. How can people find you or your books?
So the best way to find my stuff is to go to my website, which is GregoryAWilson.com, GregoryAWilson.com. That has links to all the various places. If you want to check out my Twitch place, Twitch channel, as Shane already said, that's twitch.tv/Arvan Eleron, ARVANELERON. I'm those places quite a bit. And I also run a podcast with a fellow speculative fiction author, Brad Bollier, called Speculate, which interviews authors and artists and editors from cross fantasy and science fiction like Brandon Sanderson, Pat Rothfuss,
Wow.
Hugh Johnson, and a whole bunch of other people. And that's at speculatesf.com. So any one of those places will get you to anything else Twitter-wise and stuff that I do too.
All right. Well, we got 10 seconds left. I didn't even get to talk about how cool of a DM you are, but don't tell anybody, but Series Runner is my favorite guy in your Legion that you're with. But hey, man.
Oh, really?
Take care.
I
yeah.
mean, Series Runner is a force of nature, so I don't blame you.
Hey, we got to go, man. Arv, have a good trip.
Hey, thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Shane.